Hello everyone, this is Moby's Primal, and I am back with another Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report. So, sorry for the infrequency of reports. I recently picked up the 2-player starter box for Hordes, and have been really playing a lot of that game. And because of the mechanics of how individual units activate instead of army-wise phase control, I don't think I'll be doing battle reports for that game system unless, unless I snapped a shot after every single model moves, and, who would want that? Anyways, nothing terribly special about the circumstances of this game, although it is against my Warhammer mentor, who I haven't beaten in a long time, but he's got a rather softer / fluffy list this game, so anything can happen. Plus, there's a toilet in the background of this picture, and if you look really, really closely, you can also see Slenderman, because it is October. Anyway, 2,400 points. This is a Blood and Glory scenario. Greenskins start the game with 6 fortitude, and my Heartless army starts with 8. First to 3 loses, so let's get it on. Alright, so starting from my opponent's left, my right, he's got a small unit of Wolf Riders in the corner, and then on the other side of that ruined tower are 36 Night Goblins that are hiding 2 Fanatics. He's got a Doom Diver in the background, and then his center unit is 28 Biggins, joined by all 3 of his characters. And he's got Grumpykins is his Black Orc General, who's got the Armor of Fortune, Crown of Command, Dragonbane Gem, and a Sword of Battle. So his real bonus is making that unit stubborn. He's got a great Shaman in there, level 4, with he's got the other Trickster Shard and a Talisman of Protection. And then his BSB is in the back rank there with the Armor of Destiny, just because you can't fit all those characters in the front rank because he has a full command in that unit. And then this Mega unit is flanked by 2 units of 8 Trolls. Yikes. As a Bretonnian player, Trolls scare me big time, because if I fight them with Knights, they're going to puke on me and ignore my armor, and if I did happen to have, like, Peasants when I play my Peasant Horde army, I'm fighting them with weapon skill 2, and that weakness really shows against Trolls. He's also got a couple of Ballista in behind the units as well. And then finally on the right flank is another unit of 36 Night Goblins. They have 2 Fanatics also. He's got a Catapult, 5 Spider Riders, and then Heckle and Jekyll here, who are 2 Mangler Squigs. Now I want to talk about Mangler Squigs for a second. So who is the genius at Games Workshop that decided to charge $55 for a 65-point model with enough parts that gamers can make 2 models out of the kit? I mean, come on. You know how tight-fisted most gamers are with their money, and how a lot of people have got this weird love-hate relationship with a GW, with all their price hikes and stuff like that, and slow rate of releasing updates for books like Bretonnia and Wood Elves. So I'm willing to bet that in every gamer on the planet Earth, aside from the promotional, like, heavy metal team, demo teams and stuff like that, they take this kit and they split it up like my opponent has done here. In fact, this, I'm thinking this was probably intentional now that I think more about it, as most gamers are probably thinking, I'll get this silly dual kit model for $55 and really stick it to GW by splitting it, but those gamers probably wouldn't pay $27 for one Mangler if it came as a single model. Okay, so that's enough for my rant that I have every game. Time to look at the Heartless battle line. So starting on my right, I've got my fast cavalry unit in front of my swampy trebuchet there. Then there's 9 nobodies with the Eternal Flame Banner, and if I can connect that unit into a unit of trolls, get a spell buff like Harmonic Convergence or something like that, it should be lights out for the trolls. And then in the center, I have 2 archer units and my general up front, Hainer. He rides a Pegasus. He has the Virtual Stoicism, Genji Helmet, and the Crown of Command. And then on the left flank, I have 2 units of Knights, with the left one joined by my BSB, who's got the Toughness Potion, Dragon Helm, and Sword of Might. And then also I have my Pegasus Knights, my 2nd Fast Cavalry and 2nd Trebuchet, and my level 4 Heaven Mage Sam is kind of hard to see in this picture, but she's in between the 2 Knight units with the Earthing Rod. Okay, so of course I pray and the Greenskins go first. And on the right, the Wolf Riders move up to threaten my Trebuchet, and the Night Goblins march forward so they can get a good reach with their Fanatics. On the left, the Spider Riders scale the tower and sit up pretty, making a really cool picture. And then Heckle and Jekyll back there, they dart around in the background. My opponent definitely doesn't want to push those things forward and have my fast cavalry come up, plop on top of them, take a bunch of damage, and die, but it will also kill the Mangler Squig. He doesn't want that to happen. Okay, and then in Magic, the Green Foot of Cheese stomps on my nobodies 3 times, but gets unlucky and only manages to kill 1 knight, and then in turn stomps on 8 Night Goblins. And I chose Night Goblins because I was hoping to maybe force a panic check or something. The greenskin shooting doesn't do any damage, so we move right into Heartless 1. Okay, so I thought this was pretty sneaky. I moved my yeoman to the right along that swamp before pushing them forward within 8 inches of the Night Goblins to trigger the Fanatics. So this made my opponent choose to either send the Fanatics at the yeoman and have a decent shot at hitting them, but it would probably also hit the swamp too and then kill the Fanatic, or they have to send them towards my nobodies who are still at arm's reach, which he decided to do. And then once the Fanatics were out, I flew Hainer right over in front of the unit so I can stop them from advancing. Because, you know, goblins aren't terribly dangerous, but a big static swing coupled with some troll attacks can make quick work out of anything in my army. So I have to stop up one of the two things, and trolls can really kill Hainer pretty quickly. Then on the left, I bring all 3 of my knight units up, and you can't see them because they're dead, but I sacrificed my second fast cavalry unit to draw out the other Fanatics, and what happened is I drew a Fanatic out, he hit, killed 4 of my guys, they failed a panic check, and when I fled, I went over the Fanatic and killed the Fanatic too. So there's a pretty decent trade there. Then my trebuchets both managed to score perfect hits here in both the left goblin and the general's unit and do a considerable amount of damage, in addition to Sam drawing down a comet, the comet of cheese actually, right down in front of the center unit. So in the second turn, all the orcs try to scatter away from the comet, but it comes down regardless and kills 1 troll in each unit plus 6 orcs and the ballista that was in the back there. So doing some terrible damage there. But then the orc shaman answers right back with another foot of Gork, which kills 3 nobodies, and then I think it steps on one of my knight units like 3 times, kills 5 knights, and then the other unit, it kills 2 knights. So magic in this game has been crazy, and it's only turn 2. On top of that, my opponent gets the Hand of Gork model, or the Hand of Gork spell, and moves the orc unit, so I have absolutely no choice but to charge or be charged with the nobodies, and that's not really where I want to be, considering how much of a beating that unit has already taken, and I really do need to use those guys to deal with the trolls. Alright, so here's a look at the board going into Heartless 3, and I missed a few pictures that turn top of 2, because my opponent was kind of getting frustrated with this game, and picture snapping during games like that can be really like rubbing salt into a wound, and you know, I don't like doing it. But it probably would help if I didn't whine every 2 seconds about how things like Doom Divers are good at being accurate, and Foot of Gork spells, how they keep hitting on 4+ and stuff like that, while I'm not really yapping about things like how great 2+ armor save and blessings are, and Strength 5 trebuchets get to be. Those Night Goblins did charge my general. It's really was just kind of a token charge, because I'm intended to hold him up, but he's intended to hold me up until the trolls can come up and flank him. So long as he can be steadfast, he'll probably get that done. Anyways, in my turn, I go ahead and do charge the nobodies in, and I also charge my yeoman into the flank of the wolf riders. And then on the left-hand flank, lots of movement happens. So here my Pegasus Knights in the back. They were just barely missed by that Mangler last turn, so they charged the Night Goblins. And I knew I'd win that combat, but the Goblins would be steadfast, except that the General, after they handed Gork, he's too far away to help with leadership. So they fled the charge because they didn't expect to pass the steadfast check, and Pegasus redirected into the Stone Thrower. And they really need a good overrun here. I expect to kill the War Machine, but they need a good overrun so as to get him out of the countercharge from the nearby trolls. Then I put my BSB in the center between Heckle and Jekyll, and I swiftly reform all my knights to get away from the squigs. And now what I'm hoping next turn is I'm going to drink my toughness potion, be toughness 7, and my opponent's going to look at his situation and weigh his options, and hopefully he decides to crash into my BSB. And with my high toughness, I might be able to survive, but then the Mangler squig goes wild and he does like he moves like a fanatic at that point. Alright, so hand-to-hand happens, and I get absolutely thrashed. My nobodies managed, I think, 6 wounds on the orcs, but I took 4 in return from the shaman and the general in that unit. And then on the right, my yeomen are kind of upset when they only manage to do 2 wounds on the fast cavalry. They take 1 in return, and then the wolf riders throw a 3 for the break check, so they don't even break. In the back, however, the Pegasus Knights, of course, beat the Stone Thrower, and then they get an unlucky 11 to overrun into the fleeing Night Goblins. So the Goblin unit is destroyed, the Greenskin Fortitude drops to 5, but better yet, the Knights are now out of line of sight from the Trolls, and the table looks like this, going into Greenskin turn 3. No charges happen, and neither of the Mangler Squigs take the bait set up by my BSB. Plus, the orange one just barely misses hitting by my knight unit. So far, I have gotten extremely lucky with the distances the Mangler Squigs have not been able to get each turn. Then the Spider Riders, they line up to take out my leftmost trebuchet, but aside from that, everything else in the Orc army is either in combat or failing stupidity checks, or is some flavor of fanatics, so there's not a lot of intentional control for the army. Then in Magic, I'm barely able to stop the Foot of Gork spell, which allows my opponent to get the Hand of Gork off relatively easy and warp his big Orc unit into a good position to flank my knights here. It does save my final nobody from getting killed, though, so that's good. He's worth a lot of points on his own, and he's a Fortitude point, plus since he's got flaming attacks, he's useful against trolls. And also, since the Orc General is far away from the Night Goblins now, their leadership isn't enough to keep them fighting against Hater, despite being steadfast. And my General beats them down and runs them down, and takes the Greenskin Fortitude to 4, and he's poised to charge the Doom Diver, which he does in Heartless turn 3. So my remaining Nobody and Fast Cavalry move around on the right side amongst all the dead Greenskin models. On the left, I rush my other Knight unit around so they can kill the Spider Riders after I lose the Trebuchet, and then in the center, I march my Knights away from the impending flank charge, and then Sam bravely stares down that Orc unit, intended to sacrifice herself to hold him up. My thinking here is I can sacrifice her, spare the Knights who have a much more valuable standard, plus I'm aiming to summon a Comet, which makes charging her a very risky proposition for the Orcs. But what I'm failing to notice during all of this is all those stinking trolls in the back. I was so focused on dodging the Orc flank charge that I set myself up to just get flanked by trolls instead. So no significance in combat, although I did manage to summon a Comet down near Sam, and it's a boosted Comet, so it starts with 2 pips, and anytime it doesn't come down, it gets an additional 2, so that might put a damper in my opponent's plans to charge and kill her. The trolls, they manage to charge against my knights, but I flee. And the Orcs also go ahead and charge Sam. The Spiders do charge the Trebuchet, but then the Fanatic unknowingly gets in the way for their overrun, and the Mangler Squig falls about 2 inches short of hitting the Knights yet again. Then in the center, before combat can happen, the Comet does not come down, so it's now at 4 pips, and the Orcs warp out of combat, so Sam gets a reprieve, because I don't think they want to take the Comet since it hasn't come down. Back to the left corner, the Trebuchet killed is... The Trebuchet crew is killed by the Spiders, but the crew kill one Spider in return before they get wiped out, which opens up their overrun corridor just nicely. They can sneak by without getting hit by their own Fanatic. And we move into Heartless 4. Okay, so I fly my Pegasus Knights and Hainer in behind the Orc unit and put Sam in front to block them again. That orange Mangler Squid back there, by the way, that got squashed last turn by my Trebuchet. Splat! Anyway, what I'm thinking here is there aren't too many rank and file Orcs left in the Biggin unit. I don't think I can kill either the General or the BSB, but if I can get all the Biggins, I'll take out that Greenskin, that standard there, and it'll drop the Fortitude to 3 and I'll win the game. So, setting up a charge just to get all those kills, and then on the left here, my Knights did rally, and I charged the other Knight Lance into the rear of the Spider Riders. And I think this is the only mistake that my opponent made, because this gives me an overrun chance to get away from the Mangler. Now, had his Spiders fled, he probably would have gone off the table, but I would have likely failed the charge and then been within easy spotting distance for the Mangler Squig to hit. So that's about it for my turn, and the Comet still hasn't come down, so it is now at 6 pips. Yikes. When the thing hits, it's going to kill a bunch of stuff, if it hits. Greenskin 5, and the only thing that really happens is the Orcs use their magic phase to warp into the flank position of my Knights who I'd fled with earlier. You know, with all the warping, it's really like trying to pin down Wood Elves in 7th edition. The Trolls in the back, they both fail their stupidity check because the General's not nearby, so they're all dorking around, sniffing flowers and scratching their backs and stuff instead of fighting. Heartless 5, I've not got much that I can do either. I move my Knights away from the overrun bomb that is about to be my archer lines, but it makes it really easy for the Mangler to get me. And what I'm doing, I'm crossing my fingers that my armor save is going to save me here. because I know that there's no avoiding the Mangler at this point. Back on the other side of the table, I march my knights up to avoid the orcs, and I block the trolls with my fast cavalry, just in case they pass their stupidity check. And also my Pegasus and Hainer fly over in an effort to still finally pin down the orcs. Now, just notice that here that my Pegasus knights, they started on the left corner of the table, of my table side. They went up the field, over across on the right, and then now have ended up on the right-hand side corner of the field. So not often does that happen, that a single unit does laps around an entire battlefield. Okay, final greenskin turn, and well, something's missing from this picture. This is where I used to have some knights, but the Mangler Squig hit them. It only caused 2 wounds after all my armor saves and stuff, but it was enough to cause a panic check, which of course my knights failed, because I could never pass leadership 8, and then off the table they flee, so my fortitude drops to 7, and I just also gave up about 300 victory points. And then I don't have a picture of it, but the orcs charged the flank of an archer unit, beat them and broke them down, so I lost another fortitude point there, and also the shaman got another Foot of Gork spell and squashed my BSB in the last turn. Blah. So I finished at Fortitude 5 after the orcs were too far for both my Pegasus Knights and Hainer to catch after all that game of trying to pin those guys down and kill off the last biggins to break his fortitude. So the table looks like this at the end of the game, and since neither player was able to break down the threshold, we go to victory points, which sees a very, very narrow Bretonian win by a small margin. I think it was only something like 250 or 300 points. So it was a terribly, terribly fun game that started out kind of bad for both players, but turned out to be a really great time. And then also, this marks the first time I've bested my Warhammer mentor since I started doing battle reports, so you know what that means.
I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
Your powers are weak, old man.
You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Okay, so that's it. Hope to see you next battle.